IRKHS is the largest kuliah in the university with more than 5,000 students. It was formed to integrate human sciences and general knowledge disciplines. Kuliah offers courses that bridge the divide between Islamic and secular sciences. Other kuliah of IIUM in GuangZhou campus are Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences, Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah Technology, Kuliah of Education, Center for Languages and Pre-University Academic Development or CELPAD, and IIUM Academy of Graduate and Professional Studies. The campus offers complete range of facilities, including on-campus housing, a mosque, 2 state-of-the-art sports complexes with Olympic-sized swimming pools, a fully equipped library with more than 2 million printed and digital materials supported by online databases, medical clinic, convenience stores, a post office, and 3 Malaysian commercial banks. The Kuala Lumpur campus at Pesisjaran Duta houses the International Institute of Islamic Civilization and Malay World, or ISTAC. ISTAC aims to proliferate studies on Islamic civilization and Malay world through learning, research, and exchange ideas and knowledge. The Kuantan campus is located on 1,000 acres of land, just like a garden within a valley surrounded by large greenery. This campus is well equipped with state-of-the-art technology for teaching and learning that offers medical science, pharmacy, allied health sciences, nursing, sciences, and dentistry courses. The IIUM Medical Center in Kuantan was built on 27.8 acres of land, equipped with 350 beds for patients and supported by more than 133 specialists. The IIUM Medical Center also includes the development of an undergraduate and postgraduate teaching hospital and tertiary level center, complementing the medical and allied health faculty provisions. Another IIUM campus, which is situated in the state of Pahang, is the Center for Foundation Studies, which is located in Gampang. The Pago campus in Johor houses the Kuliah of Languages and Management, or KLM. The population of IIUM is about 26,000 students, 30,000 undergraduates, and 6,000 postgraduates coming from 117 countries. To date, IIUM has 91,267 alumni. IIUM will continue to be competitive in its mission to make Malaysia a global center of excellence for tertiary education. It will also continue to make significant contribution, one of it to serve the Muslim Ummah. IIUM, leading the way, Khalifah, Amanah, Ikra, Rahmatan lil Alamin.
Ladies and gentlemen, to tell us more about our conference, we would like to invite co-chairperson Dr. Rabiatul Adawiyah Mumassaleh to deliver her welcoming remark. Tafadhal mashkura, Doctor.
Honorable Datuk Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, President of the International Islamic University Malaysia, Professor and Human Sciences, IIUM, Associate Professor Dr. Bruno Dibiasi, Co-Chairperson of the Conference, Western Sydney University, Australia, Associate Professor Dr. Ru Ying Chi, Board of Director of the Conference, Western Sydney University, Australia, Keynote speakers, IIUM University Management Committee, honorable guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. We are now together witnessing the opening of International Conference on Language and Literature 2020, which has taken us a year and a half of intensive preparation. I extend to all of you our warmest welcome, especially to our collaborators, the Bilingualism Research Labs of Western Sydney University, Australia, and Jinan University, China. To our delegates from over 16 countries who traveled long distance to our lovely campus, IIUM, selamat datang, welcome, and ahlan wa sahlan. It's our privilege and honor to welcome IIUM President, Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, as our guest of honor for this event. My respected and esteemed guests, digital trends in language and literature, Asia and the 21st century is the conference theme. As we move into the new decade of 2020, all aspects of life, including everyday practices, workplace, and the world of learning, are all transformed by digital technologies. Information nowadays is obtained from the internet and the social networking sites. So the internet can help amplify ideas and opinions of certain groups and individuals. Amongst the ideas that have been mediated and amplified by the digital technologies, and which have been the main motivations for us to organize this conference, is Islamophobia. In fact, the internet and the social media are the primary fields where the crudest forms of Islamophobia are deployed before making their way to the mainstream outlets. As Dr. Jack Sheehan, a prolific scholar of Islamophobia, observed, Muslims are too often reduced to the three Bs, billionaires, bombers, and belly dancers. So Islamophobia, as expressed using the digital technologies, creates an immutable impression that Muslim societies around the globe are static, forever stuck in social and cultural stagnation, and are therefore an anomaly when compared to other societies, meaning that Muslim societies around the globe do not change. Okay? Therefore, as an international Islamic institution, we firmly believe that we owe it to ourselves and to the Ummah to stay proactive and to become agents of change to deconstruct this narrative of Islamophobia. Just like other societies around the globe, we are dynamic and we do experience change. And this is proven if you have a look at the list of presentations in the next few days, which reveals the amazing diversity and the dynamic nature of issues regarding language application and literary interpretation on digital technologies. Therefore, we are here to affirm that we are not the 3Ds, we are not billionaires, though we do wish to be one. We're definitely not bombers, and I can assure you that none of us here has the talent for belly dancing. So we are as complex as other societies around the world. We do hope that through the collaboration with universities from Australia and China, this misconception, this perception can be debunked, inshallah. So to end my speech, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our collaborators and to the student and staff of Kuliah of Islamic Legal Knowledge and Human Sciences, KRKHS, and Kuliah of Communication, Information and Communication Technology, who have been working really hard to make sure this conference runs smoothly. I thank you for your dedication, for your efforts, and for your time. I also wish to thank our sponsors for their generosity in sponsoring this event. Finally, to all the presenters and participants, I sincerely hope you will enjoy the activities and sessions about to unfold in the next few days, and that you will leave IIUM with fond memories through the scientific and networking exchanges that you will have, that I'm sure you will have throughout the conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ruby. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure we would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Ru Ying Chi, Director of the Bilingualism Research Lab, Western Sydney, Australia, to deliver her
Honorable Datuk Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, President International Islamic University of Malaysia, Associate Professor conference would not have happened. I'd like to acknowledge the great institutional support from the 3 universities, the Department of English Language and Literature, Kuliah of Islamic Reviewed Knowledge and Human Sciences, the International Islamic University Malaysia, the School of Humanities and Communication Arts, Western Sydney University, Australia, College of Chinese Language and Culture, Jinan University, China. The last but not the least, Bilingualism Research Lab at both Western Sydney University and Jinan University. I want to thank in advance all participants and contributors. I wish you all a rewarding and successful 3 days filled with insights, inspiration, and innovation. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ru Yingqi, Director of Bilingualism Research Lab. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now with great pleasure we would like to invite Dr. Aini, presenting Dean of Kuliah, to deliver the Kuliah's welcoming remark. Tafadhal, mashkura, Dr. Aini.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. Honorable Datuk Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, President of the International Islamic University Malaysia, Co-Chairperson of the conference, Dr. Rabiatul Adawiyah Muhammad Saleh from the Department of English Language and Literature, IIUM, Associate Professor Dr. Bruno DiBiase, Western Sydney University, Australia, Associate Professor Dr. Ru Yingqi, Board of Director for the conference, Western Sydney University of Australia, keynote speakers, IIUM University Management Committee, honorable guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. I'm here representing the Dean. Yeah, that's not me. He's the Associate Professor Dr. Shukran Abdul Rahman. Yeah, he's not be able to be with us today due to another commitment. So on behalf of the Dean of KHS, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the International Conference on Language and Literature 2020. This conference is another achievement under the belts of the Department of English Language and Literature, Kuliah of Islamic Reviewed Knowledge and Human Sciences, with the Bilingualism Research Labs at Western Sydney University and Jinan University, and supported by the Malaysian Association of Applied Linguistics. A round of applause to the organisers. During the 3 days of the conference, you'll have opportunities to share and engage in thought-provoking discussions and generate even more ideas on current research in these two fields as we usher in the new year 2020. The theme for this conference, already mentioned by Dr. Rabiatul just now, Digital Trends in Language and Literature, Asia and the 21st Century. That is quite relevant theme in this current era. I've had a chance to skim the abstracts sent for this conference, and I'm delighted to find a wide array of topics, from translation studies, the use of technology, language acquisition, and pedagogical approaches in teaching English, be it as a foreign language or a second language, to Malaysian cyberpunk fiction and Asian speculative fiction. This diversity indicates that the rapid shifts and innovations in terms of English in usage, where the varieties of spoken and written English as well as literatures in English have increasingly widened the function of the language, so that it is no longer just an aftermath of colonial days, but now a powerful tool for writing back to the center, reclaiming identities, forging global citizenships, reaching out to diverse communities, and mobilizing ideas and plans of actions. I also recognize the relevance of this conference theme with recent developments in Asia. We are in the second decade of the 21st century, and this continent is on the verge of history making. Asia is undergoing the process of urbanization at a faster rate compared to other regions, and in 20 years will house 65% of the world's middle class population. A number of Asian countries are fast becoming economic power contenders to the old Western superpowers, weakening their monopoly on global trade. The affordability and availability of the internet have made it possible for the citizens of many developing countries in this region to improve their education, widen their opportunities in skilled jobs, and also discuss their interests on online platforms, enabling ideas to germinate and people to work together. Our kuliah, the Kuliah of Islamic Arabic Knowledge and Human Sciences, endeavors to engage more with the community. Recent developments at IIUM have encouraged academicians and students to look beyond theories and establish rapport with the public. As you may know, the campus is surrounded by many indigenous communities and small neighborhoods. The advance of the internet and social media has helped aid our involvement with the people around us. Public engagement tools readily found online are helping us and other community project leaders to reach out to the community and listen to what they have to say. I hope that we can use this conference as a platform to engage one another so that we can apply our shared knowledge for the benefit of the community. Before I end my say, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the co-conveners of this conference, Dr. Rabiatul Adawiyah Muhammad Saleh, from the Department of English Language and Literature. Her nickname is Dr. Ruby. That's her nickname of this university. So that's easier to pronounce. Associate Professor Dr. Bruno D. Biase from the Western Sydney University of Australia, and Professor Xiao Yi from the Jinan University for the efforts in putting this event together. My gratitude also goes to the rest of the organizing committee. Thank you for your support and hard work. Last but not least, thank you to the delegates for your participation. We look forward to discovering and discussing your research. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aini, representing Dean of Kuliah of KIRKHS. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we would like to invite Honorable Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, President of IIUM, to deliver his welcoming remark and to officially the opening ceremony of ICLL 2020.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa bihi nasta'in, amma ba'd. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, Professor Faridah Abdul Manaf, Deputy Director, International Islamic University of Malaysia, Associate Professor Dr. Aini Maznina Manaf, Deputy Dean Academic Affairs, representing the patron of the conference, Dean Kuliah of Islamic Arabic Knowledge and Human Sciences, IIUM, co-chairpersons of the conference, Dr. Robi, IIUM, and Associate Professor Dr. Bruno Dibes, Western Sydney University, Australia, Associate Professor Dr. Ruing Chi, Board of Director for the conference and Western Sydney, Australia, keynote speakers, IIUM University Management Committee, honorable guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to the International Islamic University, Malaysia, and also to the International Conference on Language and Literature 2020, ICLL 2020 here at the International Islamic University in Malaysia. I would like to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of IIUM to colleagues, researchers, students, and everyone involved in this conference. I'm deeply grateful to our co-host, Western Sydney University, Australia, and Jinan University, China, and I would like to thank their representative for agreeing to have this conference together with IIUM. My distinguished guests, it is a great honor to be here this morning at the opening of the ICLL 2020 conference to deliver my address at this very important event. Ladies and gentlemen, when we think about the issues all of us will talk about for the next 3 days, I believe that the theme of this conference, which is digital trends in language and literature, Asia and the 21st century, is not only an exciting area of discussion, but the focus on the digital is also very timely and appropriate in our current circumstances. For me, or in my view, this is an understatement. The digital is the future. We have just greeted the year 2020, a new decade of the 21st century. For the past couple of decades, the digital has become increasingly integrated and commonplace in our lives. The spread and use of telecommunication technology, such as the internet, in daily life is a good example of how technology is giving opportunity to people to create new and innovative ways of communication and interaction. Due to the increasingly exciting and important role digitization plays in every aspect of life, I would like to take a few minutes to briefly comment on the digital transformation taking place in the Asian region and perhaps my little experience on this aspect. The Asian region, with its more than 4.5 billion people and diverse cultures and histories, is at forefront of an actively changing digital landscape. The involvement of Asian government in allocating big national budgets to the changing policies in order to improve information and communication technology infrastructure and to increase technology penetration in their countries have greatly contributed in accelerating Asia's digital transformation. It has become a new asset class, i.e. digital economy asset. The digital transformation is also changing the ways in which Asia handles its economies and businesses. Tahsin Saidi Siddiq, in his article, Asia's Digital Revolution, which was published by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in 2018, comments that Asia is leading in nearly every aspect of digitization. Asia, or Asia's Siddiq states, is also foremost in areas of e-commerce and financial technology, or fintech. The embrace of digital technology has certainly helped countries across Asia manage businesses more practically and effectively by helping to cut costs and ease the proceeds or the process of the good delivery. My company has a little experience in Jakarta, where we were commissioned by one of the biggest delivery or logistic companies of the world to look into the data of the delivery of goods around the city of Jakarta. So we need to put all the data together, and we need to understand the peak hours of delivery, and more importantly, to reduce the cost of fuel and the emission of carbon dioxide by having the reverse logistic technology in order to make use of the transportation better. So we have to put the right data, what time we have to send the goods out and come back to Jakarta with another kind of assignment, so that the lorries, when they come back, they not come back empty. So this is something that we have use the data to make sure that every single movement of our workers, our lorries, are fully occupied using the data to save the environment, to save the cost, and also to make it more effective. We can't do that unless we are able to use the fintech in looking into each and every data of the whole ecosystem. Over the years, the relationship between cultural and linguistic, we come to the language in a moment. Yeah, I'm talking from my own experience in the financial world, which I cannot help but to comment. Over the years, the relationship between cultural and linguistic diversity, art, and digital tool has also become more complex. This increasing complexity has contributed in galvanizing the creative industries and cultural initiatives around the globe. The Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU, published in 2017 a white paper entitled A New Age of Culture, the Digitization of Arts and Heritage. This white paper contained an analysis of how cultural institutions around the globe have adapted digital means to create and encourage interaction among different audiences. It is interesting to see also and to note how many Asian countries are analyzed in this report. The authors of the report note that digitization of cultural institutions is clearly more advanced in developing countries such as China and Indonesia outpace developed nations in some categories that the EIU analyzed. Distinguished guests, despite the numerous opportunities afforded by this great advancement, they are not without their challenges. Currently, there are many nations in the region who are doing their best to fulfill many Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which have been outlined by the United Nations. Goals such as quality education, goal number 4, decent work and economic growth, goal number 8, and reduce inequalities, goal number 10, can be attained effectively through the enforcement of appropriate digital strategies. It is most advantageous for any nation to be rigorous in its effort to embrace digital trend in order to empower its people and boost its economy. Nonetheless, a number of concerns have been raised with regard to the human, socio-economic, and cultural costs of this rapid digital transformation on the people on many fronts. From my own understanding, one of the biggest hurdles Asian governments need to overcome is to ensure that the digital strategies they put in place to fulfill SDG do not alienate or marginalize certain segments of society. Ignoring call to address gender data gaps, for example, might jeopardize any strategy that may help to improve digital inclusion and empower women in developing Asian countries. A report by the GSMA Development Fund finds that women in developing countries feel safer and more independent when they own mobile phones. The same report also states women were also able to capitalize on economic opportunities through improved mobile phone ownership. Although for many of us, mobile phone ownership is commonplace, there are several barriers obstructing many women in Asian countries from mobile phone ownership. There are still so many questions and issues we need to confront and address when it comes to digitization. But the most impressive question we need to ask ourselves is how do we better prepare ourselves for an increasingly digital future. At this juncture, it is pertinent for me to note that digitization or digitalization, if you like, is only the basic step towards many other wonderful and incredible innovation for the betterment of humanity. Perhaps in my own practice of big data analytics and AI, I have been using the machine learning a lot to interpret words, construction of sentences, narration, script, data and reports. Even in this space, we have transformed so much from natural language processing, NLP, to natural language generation, NLG. The smart algorithm behind the NLP and the NLG can now process and generate the data in a more comprehensive and accurate manner, of course faster, leveraging on millions of relevant or contrasting data as the case may be. The final report, and that includes the prescribed roadmap for any industry, for any issue, for any challenges, for the art and literature and the psyche of the community across the board, is now written by the robot. Not only it is written by the installed algorithm or simple robot, the choice of any or every single word in the report is carefully and intensively made by the algorithm, supported by many vertical data and trends. As you can see, this will open up many new dimensions in the studies of humanities, languages, and even in hard sciences. As we speak, the NLP and NLG have been extensively used in the areas of manufacturing, build and design, and medical sciences. It is my personal ambition, if you allow me, that one day I will be able to apply the machine learning on the entire Quran, as every word of the Quran is miracle by any standard. We need a better technology, perhaps the smartest technology, to unlock this aspect of miracle as we progress in this world. Some people may be skeptic and worried about the rise of this smart technology, or rather the Industry Revolution 4.0. They fear that humanity will be diluted in the process. I was worried too. But after some time, I have come to a conclusion that ignorance will only lead to decline and backwardness. Intelligence, on the other hand, may cut both ways, the good and the bad things. So let us use smart technology for good things. In fact, all type of knowledge that we have in this world could be used for good purposes or bad purposes. It's up to us to put the right use of knowledge at the right time, at the right strategies to benefit the humankind at the end of the day. I'm pleased to note that this conference will enable knowledge sharing and dialogue, which will ultimately help us think about, if not answer, this question. Additionally, let us all help one another understand how the Asian region, particularly with regard to its languages and cultures, is shaped by and is shaping digital trend around the globe. I also hope that by the end of the day, this 3-day conference, we can translate the knowledge we have shared with one another into action that will further empower people in our respective communities. The key word, ladies and gentlemen, behind digitization is empowerment. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope that all of us will be able to benefit from the discussion and exchanges of ideas and perspectives in this conference. In the name of Allah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It gives me great pleasure to officiate this conference. With that, I wish you a successful and insightful conference and a very productive day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, President of IIUM. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a short launching montage video of ICLL 2020. Please enjoy. hopefully with that kind of music, we should get our brain juices flowing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are almost at the end of our opening ceremony, but before we come to that juncture, we would like to invite Dr. Aini, representing Dean of Kuliah or Faculty, to present to our very special guest, President of IIUM, Datuk Daud Bakar, with a small token of appreciation containing books authored by academic staff from the Department of English Language and Literature. I believe we have what, 3 sets of souvenirs presenting different parties and so on. Thank you, Honorable Datuk and Dr. Aini. Ladies and gentlemen, before we break for tea and coffee, you should know for our first time visit to Malaysia, when you come to Malaysia, we don't stop eating. For worse or for good, it is something that we are quite proud of. Clearly, it can be very unhealthy, but nonetheless, because you're a very special guest, we need to feed you. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we adjourn, we are now coming to the photography session. Yeah, everyone is invited in the photo. So, cameraman, can you take your place now? Our president and guests at the round table will remain seated, facing the cameraman, facing the screen, while the rest of us in the hall, could you stand up and move closer to the front semicircular desk, so that we would try to incorporate as many people as possible for a group photo, if you don't mind. Yes, fine. We have to confirm from the photographer whether we can squeeze everybody in. I think we should be able to do that, inshallah. Come everyone, don't be shy, so that we can have a record that I was in Malaysia for a conference, whereby we eat a lot of things. Come everyone. And again, with SLR camera, we should be able to cover everybody. Right, come. Right, I will let the cameraman do his job and instruct you for the best position of sitting to include everybody in the hall, inshallah. Can we, on the right side, move in closer, please, so that we can form a semicircle? Yeah. conference of International Conference on Language and Literature. And we have had our, in a way, second breakfast, which is typical of Malaysian culture. And that should keep us highly motivated and energized for the rest of the day, for the next 2 days or so. When I just came from the multipurpose hall, some of our participants are still down there. They are still partaking our refreshment, and I think they've been informed to reconvene in level 5. So if I may, Dato, give 1 or 2 minutes for them to make their way around here. Yeah. Welcome everyone. It's a long climb, I know. It's a long wait at the elevator as well. But it's good to be climbing up the stairs because the view from level 5, the vista is just breathtaking. Alhamdulillah, few months ago we had a rather unfortunate, you may have heard in the news about the haze situation. Imagine if we had come, had this function today or then during the haze season, would have been not worth the climbing up to level 5. But alhamdulillah, it's been God sent, wonderful bright weather. It rained, bright in the first half of the day and rainy in the second half of the day, which I think is a good combination. Yeah, but the heat, I am sure, is exciting nonetheless. Right. Thank you for closing the door. Welcome everyone. We're just getting started. And our honored guest is already present and ready to go to deliver Tan Sri's thoughts on issues that I am certain been mentioned by our president earlier regarding technology and the younger generation of learners in languages that have required for service providers to venture into new territories involving society, technology, and many other elements as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Again, we cannot stop saying to our guests, if this is your first visit to Malaysia, welcome to Malaysia, selamat datang. We hope you will enjoy your stay here, not only on campus, but also after the end of the conference, you will enjoy what our country has to offer. KL is a very exciting place. Some people call it mini London, mini New York. Take it whatever you like, right? Very exciting. In terms of cost, it's in the middle, neither cheap nor expensive, but it is very, very exciting. But nonetheless, before we venture into that territory, it is time to put our brain to work, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we had this morning our president of the university, Dato' Daud Bakar. In case for your information, Dato' Bakar is an expert in Islamic finance. Our speaker in a moment is the rector of International Islamic University Malaysia. Again, FYI, in IIUM, we have the constitutional head of the university, which currently at the moment held by Malaysia's Queen, His Royal Highness His Royal Highness the Queen. We have their president. We have met them this morning, and now we have the rector of the university. I think that it will be a waste of time for me to expound on his achievement. I will let his ideas do the talking, and I am certain you shall be getting lots of ideas about what he is about to talk in a while. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic that will be presented by our speaker today, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, is on the topic of digital trends in language and literature, Asia and the 21st century. Without further ado, it is with great humility and pleasure we would like to invite Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli to deliver your paper, please. Tafaddal mashkura.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting of peace and a very good morning. My brother, Master of Ceremony, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for inviting me to give this very difficult topic. I'm not a finance person, neither am I a language person, neither am I a literature person, neither am I a digital person. So I'm wondering, why am I here? The only reason why I'm here is because I'm a rector, and they often bully the rector to say whatever they need to be said. In any case, I'm very interested in the topic. I'm a person who love language, although I'm not good in language. But I think the existence of language and literature is what the university is all about. If we miss language and literature, humanities, social sciences, we often talk about sciences and technology all the time, and digital is one of those. I think there is a need to balance this up. So I'm trying to make an argument of where this whole balance comes into play, particularly when we move into a very technological frontiers, and half of us perhaps do not make enough sense of what this technology is all about. I'm a science person, my background is basically on health sciences, and I'm trying to squeeze my little ideas of what this is all about within this very big topic. Let me start off by just putting knowledge as a big picture, regardless whether it's social science, humanities, language, and literature. I think the argument that I'm going to present to you probably covers many of these dimensions, right? So knowledge is perhaps the big caption on this, and how does knowledge behave, or how are knowledge treated in the context of digital trends, and also in the context of Asia moving forward in the 21st century. Now, these are just backgrounds. I think it is something that is foregone. In other words, we know that we are inundated with all this technology, all this plus signs, whatever it means, to show that there is no increase. Whether it's accepted or not accepted is a different question, but we are forced to be at par with this. Look at, for example, the number of internet used, plus 9% January last year. Look at the mobile use, 10%. So all these are an increasing thing. I think the younger generation will probably appreciate this a little bit more. That's the annual growth as far as digital is concerned. I think it's a foregone conclusion, as I've mentioned. And if you look around the world, again, the same thing. You find that our total population is so much, and again, the numbers who are involved in this are in the billions, and I think these numbers are increasing almost by the day. I think that one probably nobody would want to argue with us. On this Asia-Pacific front, I think it mirrors the same thing, albeit in a very smaller scale. But Asia, being 60% of the world population, does give some significance as far as this change or the trend is concerned, right? And if you look at, again, the annual growth is the same thing. Internet growth is even bigger as compared to the world or the global growth as such, and the number of mobile users are, again, greater than that. So we can conclude, as far as the world front is concerned, as far as Asia Pacific is concerned, this is something that we need to contend with in one way or the other, and understanding what this is all about perhaps gives us a kind of a niche where we need to tweak what button to push and how we actually want to take this on if we want to preserve a certain kind of value within our ambit as far as Asians and as far as humanity is concerned. So that's where I'm going to take. This is a very interesting study, a 10-country study, and 2 of the countries are developing, happens to be Malaysia and India. There are 8 countries, I think 3 others are also Asian countries, Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, right? The developing countries, like I say, only Malaysia and India, right? All of these studies, the finding tells us there is this large dependency on technology, be it in the context of internet connection, information, entertainment, or it's just a question of just using it for the sake of using it, as it were, right? The huge dependency is something that I will elaborate a little bit more. Globally, it says that 80% of the consumers find it impact them positively, and out of the 80%, 37% say it really significantly changed their life, right? Despite that, there are ups and downs, and I think the downs are basically the frustration that is on the rise. The frustrations include things like, having to be bothered with a new set of skills, for example. Yeah, some people feel stressed when they found that their handphones are not charged, or they misplace it somewhere. Those are new stresses that is added on because of these gimmicks or these devices they've got. I think there is another study which I just appended it, which is not part of it. This was done during the Davos Economic Conference 2018, when they did a survey, and they say 70% of the people are worried about fake news as a weapon as far as digital trends are concerned. So there's another concern of this fake news, of being, whether you are trusting the information right on, or you really need to filter it, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So while generally these are accepted and are positively looked on, but there are other pockets that we need to be concerned with, particularly in terms of values. Yeah, when we talk about fake news, I associate it with values, whether you are telling the truth, whether you are trying to manipulate. Yeah, as we can see in many parts of the world, that is also going on. Right. Now, these are some of the data. I put a mark there for those of you who are not quite sure. India and Malaysia with the dots there, right? And this particular data answers the question: how long the growing influence of online digital technology impacted your life, right? Something that you want to ask. Yeah, are you able to live without this technology, the handphones and whatnot? Yeah, the scale is -2 if you say it doesn't bother me, and +2 it bothers me a lot, right? What's interesting, if you look at this data, it states that the people from the emerging countries, in this particular case India and Malaysia, are the most optimistic about how technology has impacted their life, saying that it significantly improved their life. So if you can see that, for example, India is 65% of them says it significantly impacted their life, right? And Malaysia, 49%, almost 50%, significantly impacted their life. And if you compare this to developed countries, among Asians, for example, Japan is 11%. Yeah, Singapore maybe 40%, closer to India, South Korea 30%. But Japan, a country which is so technologically advanced, this technology do not impact them as much as the undeveloped technologically India and Malaysia. There's a question that I ask, why so? And if you look at other countries, Germany, for example, 24%, yeah, among the lowest. UK, 25%. So developed countries tend to be not quote-unquote obsessed over this digital thing as compared to persons in India and Malaysia, particularly Malaysia in this particular context. So that's one. And if you look at the question, it has not changed my life. Again, you see India very low, about 5%, and Malaysia is about 10%, and South Korea is about 8%. Okay? The rest, the more technologically advanced country like France, Germany, 19%, Japan is even 34%. It has not changed their life. I mean, the Japanese has not been obsessed over this technology. Why so? I mean, these are questions that you need to ask. Why are people in certain parts of the world, developed one, are not as obsessed as we were in this particular case? So, if you look at the total sort of output, the overall, the last column there, average improvement, you find that Malaysia and India mark the largest average improvement. India 1.5, Malaysia 1.2, as compared to other countries like Germany only 0.3, yeah, Japan 0.6, UK less than 1%. Why is that difference again between developed and developing country, and within Asia, the developed countries also shows a different sort of change as far as that's concerned. Now that is one. So that is one conclusion that we say people in the developing Asian countries are more dependent on these gadgets and more obsessed over it. Yeah. But there's another question here. How difficult it would be to stop using your internet connected digital devices? It's a good question to ask all of you. Can you not use this for a day? Yeah? And here it says the country that is most dependent on internet connected devices is Malaysia. Yeah? While Germany is the least that is willing to forego it. Again, a developed technological countries is not as dependent as Malaysia and India in this particular case. Let's look at the data. If we look at the average dependency, Malaysia is about 78% dependency. As compared to India, maybe about 76%. Right? But look at Germany, it's only about 30%, 60%. The numbers seems to be very different in this particular context. Right? Germany, you can see there. UK, you can see what other one? Japan. Japan consistently bucked the trend, as it were. Yeah, and we don't know what is it the Japanese have got or the Japanese know that we do not know. Right? So again, we are totally dependent on this as compared to other developing countries, non-Asian or otherwise. Now, if you look at what is the most, is mobile phone as compared to laptops and stuff like that. Again, Malaysia leads, and Malaysia leads in almost all those things, regardless whether it's mobile phone or desktop or tablets, or digital assistant. I think we lead all the way, and that's why we got a nice score of almost 80%. Right? And India follows next, and the rest of the developed countries, somewhere in between. There is another data on dependency as far as Asia, Malaysia, and India in particular. How often do you download, stream, or access the following digital content? This is again something which is very interesting. Again, you find that Malaysia and India download it a lot as compared to other countries. They're not only we are connected, where we are using all these facilities to download as much as possible. And the good news is that we often download materials that has to do with knowledge. So newspaper, magazines, we seem to download a lot more as compared to all the other materials. Yeah? In this particular context, perhaps it's an advantage to us if we actually download the right resources for enhancing knowledge, language or literature or things of that nature. But there's a catch to this. The catch is we only download things which is free. When it's not free, we don't really care. So in other words, it is not really the pursuit of knowledge per se. It is more of whether you can get it free of charge. Otherwise, you will not be able to pay. Yeah? So this simple study, I think, was done 2 years ago, gives us a kind of a picture. And the picture to me is not a very comfortable one for developed countries. For Malaysia in particular, we are wholly dependent, almost dependent on this as compared to developed countries. Since Malaysia often say, look, its policy, when you look at Japan, Japan has got a different trend altogether, despite being technologically advanced and more sophisticated in this particular case. So that's one question mark that we really need to answer, and I hope this conference will come back to the kind of answers that we want to do. Now, the other dimension when you talk about knowledge, this is coming from a UNESCO document that talks about by the year 2020, knowledge is likely to be doubling every half a day. Right, so you are now half a day already, so the knowledge must have doubled by now. Since the president spoke, now when the rector speaks, I think there's something else is happening to this. Now, what does it mean to us in this particular context? Knowledge then will be seen as a kind of an advantage at the moment in time. In other words, if you don't take full advantage of the knowledge that you've got, so the second half of the day, that knowledge may have changed or maybe doubled to whatever it is. So this is what we call the era of momentary or temporary advantage. How do you use this knowledge that you've got and make it useful to you in the context of disseminating knowledge or getting new ideas and stuff like that. So that is one of the key things. In other words, knowledge do not sustain itself over a period of time, and we know this, but what surprises me is the time is shortened almost half a day in this particular context. And the study also tells us that people who are best prepared for this are people who are comfortable with other disciplines at the same time. And that's why I venture to speak in this forum. Although I'm a science and medical person, but I want to be connected to other disciplines at the same time, so that I can get the whole idea of what knowledge is all about in its convergence, yeah, in its unity, for example. Yeah? How do I understand this? And you need to be comfortable with. I think the trend that we were taught, at least in my era, my vintage, you need to specialize in just one field. You become a specialist, you become an expert, you become a consultant, and then, yeah, you're okay. But now it's no longer that way. How do you, as a specialist, a consultant, an expert, connect to other disciplines at the same time? How do you connect the dots? Because finding the solution now is no longer just one discipline. We need to integrate or interact with other disciplines. And therefore, the whole idea of collaborating, working with other people, empathizing, understanding where they come from, becomes another discipline that we need to master. You know, doesn't mean that I'm a science person and therefore social science or humanities is entirely irrelevant to me. I don't need to talk about it. That is not the issue today. And I think this is what this report tells us. Yeah. Therefore, there's a need to reorganize around transdisciplinarity. I think we often hear these words. Right? There's no longer a siloed discipline, that disciplines somehow or other must merge together into a transdiscipline, or at least a multiple discipline kind of a context. Yeah? So that they remain relevant in the understanding what knowledge is all about, its application, and more so in looking for a better solution that is relevant in today's world. Right? And therefore aware, it says here, is a key, since new technologies are changing the world as we know it, and the direction it is uncertain. Therefore, you need to be a level of awareness, and this level of awareness is a kind of anticipation. We must be able to forecast, not just 1 day, 2 days, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, but you need to forecast perhaps a whole generation. Where is this knowledge taking us, and how do we actually work through it and integrate it with other disciplines? So this seems to be the new set of skills, a new set of ideas as we engage knowledge in the context of the digital world, because of the speed that knowledge changes and the kind of acquisition that we need to make through as far as acquiring that knowledge is concerned. I try to actually synthesize, this is my own thoughts of how knowledge has changed. In the 20th century, the 19th century, when we talk about knowledge, we are organized almost coming out of the Industrial Revolution like a factory. I often use this metaphor. The university is another kind of a factory that, you know, you go in the year one and then you go to a kind of conveyor belt running from one lecture hall to another, and after that you have your quality control, called the exams, you pass, you go to the second conveyor belt, called the second year, you repeat the whole process. It's almost like a factory. I think that picture demonstrates it well, right? And the purpose is basically to teach us, and what do they teach us so that we can get employment? Nobody wants to go to university without the word employment being talked about. I don't come to university just for the knowledge. I come to university because I want to get employed, and you know, my life will be better that way. So in this university or in this country, perhaps sometimes we get paranoid over this. We talk about employment, employability. If you do well in employment, then you're okay. That doesn't mean you're educated, though. Yeah? But that's a kind of trademark, or the hallmark that we use. Yeah? And we then begin to talk about innovation. Innovation is about what? It's using technology in the context of high tech. Yeah? So innovation is something that we create and we can sell and it can bring perhaps revenue to us, and that would be considered good as far as knowledge seeking and using application as far as that's concerned. That is a kind of idea that I have, the 3M, the men. Men means including women as well, of course. Training the minds and using it, translating it into machines and in the context of technology. So some people describe this as the knowledge without soul, education without soul. Where is the humanities in this? Where is the whole context of values in this? Yeah? So that is what is lost now when we talk about education, and I think we have seen a lot of books on this, and we are now just being contextualized on KPIs, the numbers. Yeah, how many can you do this, what percentage, and you say, okay, you do this at certain points and you're being okay, and therefore you can get promoted and so on and so forth. All of us are directed to numbers. right? Particularly in the technological sense, everything now is numbers, the binary things that we talked about. Okay? So the KPIs becomes our obsession. Yeah? Sometimes I talk to my old colleagues, say, I don't want to do this, it's not my KPI, So there's your, I mean, he can get scot-free of this because it's not his KPI. So who's going to do this? I'm going to need another person. Is this your KPI? Say yes, and then do this. So the discussion takes a very different turn as far as knowledge is concerned. What I thought we should move now, we should expand, given the problems that the world is facing today. From the men, I think we need to talk about humanity. It's no longer about me alone, it's about the whole gamut of people, your family, your community, and humanity as such. And how this knowledge applies in this particular context. Yeah? Just talking about the mind, we need to talk about the heart. Eastern philosophy, Islamic philosophy talk about there's always two seats of intellect, the mind and the heart. We train the mind, what about the heart? Is there some room for us to train in terms of what we call now the heartfulness, not just the mindfulness as such. Yeah? We are talking about not just the machines, we are talking about not the high-tech but high-touch. Where are the human elements in this machine? How do you humanize technology in that particular sense? So we begin to talk about value-based education. How do you bring back the values so that the 21st century can be a century that is quite different from the mechanical centuries of the Industrial Revolution of the 300 years ago and so on and so forth. Okay? So when we talk about values, then what do you mean? When we talk about humanity, can we sympathize with the issues that humanity all over the world are facing today? Malaysia may be lucky, other people may not be so lucky, but can we sympathize at least? And how do you direct yourself in terms of knowledge in trying to help them, right? And if we can go to those places, can we empathize? Can we be part and parcel of that solution? Can I go down, not maybe across the borders, but can I go down just beyond my campus to the village next door? How do I empathize with them? Yeah, rather than just sitting in my aircon room and theorizing something, can I go down and do something with them and try to help them? And then we moved on to another level, which was called compassion. Not just passion. Passion is about you. Compassion is about other people, right? We often talk about the passion that we have. Yes, fine. But what about the compassion of involving people at the same time, where these values of empathy and sympathy become part and parcel of that unconditional love, quote unquote, as well. So where does this value comes in the context of digital economy? Do the robots talk about this? Or do we learn from them, or they teach you about these whole values? These are issues that I think we need to start to interrogate to find out whether this digital trend is something that we can live with as far as being human is concerned. We are not just talking about immediate monetary values, we are talking about other things at the same time. Because as we have seen, there's one very good book that you need to read on. It says the mass factory teaching methods of the third industrial revolution have failed to conquer enduring problems of inequity and unfairness. Indeed, it is a problem today. Yeah, the richer and the poor, the disparities are getting wider and wider. Oxfam talked about 8 billionaires controlling 50% of the world assets, and that number is reducing all the time. So how do we actually manage this if that disparity is so severe in the context of saving humanity? So what is it in the future? No choice, we have to go into how to humanize some of this, bringing values that I talked to you about. It may be more than just 3 values, depending on your culture and tradition and where you go, right? So instead of living in a very dehumanized world, how do you then bring back human dignity, humanitarian values, quality of life, all the things that is spoken by the Sustainable Development Goal, as it were, in the context of education. So how do you move from there? My own idea was basically, you need to talk about digitalization. I think that's something that we need to grapple with. But what are the values of this? When you talk about being digitalized, I think basically we're talking about being autonomous at the same time. We talk about autonomous cars and all those things, yeah, where what called the machines can somehow rather control itself. And in the interconnectedness between two individuals or two organizations or what it is, but is it in the context of balance? I think this whole balance is the issue that I'm going to bring about, where we have all this fine, but are we in a state of balance? Or are we perhaps, again, in the disparity that we talked about in this issue of trying to connect between the two together? So I want to introduce what we call, instead of this education without soul, how do you move into an education with soul? So instead of just talking about the KPI, I'm going to flip this around and say KIP. What is KIP? The key intangible performance. The intangible performance are performance that are not readily measurable, but it is very important to the human being to understand. The question of belief, the question of ethics, the question of morality, the question of treating other people with respect. Those things are not measurable, neither are they emphasized in many educational settings, but these are very important to move forward, and the KIP is what I'm going to introduce to you. So we begin to move away from this very dehumanizing sort of environment, treating people as they work in the context of being human beings, working with them in an autonomous way, same thing, interconnecting with them, but not virtually, but also face to face. Yeah, knowing their names, understanding who they are, and also meeting them on occasion as such. Right? But what is important in the context of balance, this is where I want to introduce the idea of the balance between the mind and the heart, so that education, we bring back the soul of education in trying to manage technology, the digital technology as well, and finding the right path, which is actually the path that integrates things together. Science and social science, science and humanities, technology, and all those things. How do you integrate this together so that you get a whole picture rather than just be biased to one picture as such, right? So, and this is not new. If you go into the context of language, literature, perhaps every society has got their own understanding of what this is all about when you talk about balance. In Japan, I'm not sure if there's some Japanese here can learn better. It's the word ikigai. Ikigai is kind of a quote in terms of living Japan. It's a Japanese word for a reason for being. The reason why you want to wake up that day is because of ikigai. Yeah? Why? Because it encompasses joy, a sense of purpose, a meaning, and a feeling of well-being. Yeah? And they are credited as a factor for longevity and also happiness. So that's innate in us, these values that we need to nurture that makes us want to be or wants to do what we want to do, because we have got this innate value within us, right? And if there's East and the West, we've got another word. The word is supposed to be Hogan or something like that. It's a Danish word for a mood of coziness, comfortable conviviality, and the feeling of wellness and contentment. Again, there's something which is innate within this group of people, the Scandinavians, and the Swedish has got another group called lagom, another word called lagom, yeah? Translated as moderation, in balance, simple, perfect, suitable in a matter of amount, not too much, not too little, just right. Again, it gives you this idea of what balance is all about. And how do you bring this balance to bear? When you talk about technology, is a question that we want to ask here. In Malaysia, we also have got a similar word which is called sejahtera. We've been working on this part and parcel of our philosophy of education in Malaysia. But it's not well understood, it's not well articulated, we're just beginning to add meaning. I'm not going to expound into it, but you can see there is also this meaning of sejahtera that balances between spirituality, your intelligence, and the environment, the microcosm, the macrocosm, the complexity of what this is all about. And it cannot be translated into different languages, because it has its own meaning, it has its own values, and it has its own context in this particular case. So we need to come back to what is it in the context of language, literature, perhaps, what is so special about the essence of this knowledge within our own context that the digital economy are not ready to manipulate it as it were. And it has to be in a state of balance, yeah? And that balance is something that is important in all of this discussion that I'm going to have with you. Now, we came to this because when we go to Bali, to understand where did Bali come from, they've got a system called the Subak system, basically an irrigation system that irrigates thousands and thousands of rice fields since 900 years ago. And they've got a philosophy called Trihita Karana. And Prahita Karana is a philosophy of me and nature, me and my fellow human beings, and me and my creator. Yeah? It's a different idea of understanding what knowledge is all about and how do you maintain that balance. So as you go into many of these rites fields, you see this deity around there as a kind of a tribute between the human being and the creator, as it were. And this has been sustained for 900 years. And how can this be sustained for 900 years if the values are not embedded within the language and the literature and even the education that they have in Bali? Yeah? This is not a coincidence in Asia. We go to Thailand. The former king has got this whole concept of sufficiency economy. Again, contextualized almost like what the Bali says. Me and nature, me and my fellow being, and me and God, or me and the creator. Yeah? And this is what he's been advocating while he was reigning for 70 years. I'm not too sure whether the new king will follow this through, but certainly this is already a kind of an indication that it is very Asian in this set of values. Yeah? And my last visit to Bhutan, this is the most exciting visit, a place of happiness. And you go to Bhutan, as you leave the airport, there's a big board that says, no hurry, no worry. Yeah? In our place, you say, hurry, 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 worry, worry, worry. For your KPIs. Yeah? Yes, you know, no hurry, no worry. And then they say, follow the speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour. Right? And everything seems to be in place. People are very, quote unquote, sedated. They are very nice. They talk to you like a human being. You know, machines is not something that is. Their marketplace on the third floor of the marketplace are all organic food. The non-organic food that comes from India and elsewhere are sold on the second floor of that market. So they're moving into something which is quite different, and therefore it is not unusual to read that Bhutan is the only country as for now which is covered negative. So all this has got impacts, and technology is not the essence as far as Bhutan is concerned. Right? So this middle way, I think, is where wisdom is. And I want to bring this whole idea of wisdom, not just knowledge. I think we are drowned with knowledge, but we are lacking about wisdom. How do knowledge translate into wisdom is the issue that I think we need to grapple with in this context of digital economy or digital knowledge as well. Let me try and answer this in my own way. Yeah? We need to then put in the KIP again. As we deal with technology, we are the KIPs. And all these white boxes are meant to signify where the KIPs are. Yeah. So from that, is your digital trend, including the fake news, which is part of it. How do you go into the middle part? How do you bring the balance again? We are not denying technology is important, but how do you then humanize technology in the balanced state? Yeah? And I think all this is nothing new. When you talk about fake news, you must be able to tell the truth. Yeah, and I think there's a discussion that talks about as technology increases, the level of trust must increase at the same time. Because nobody can govern you now except your own self. If you don't have that value of trust, then who else is going to supervise? But is this happening? Yeah, you find the traffic of technology is increasing, but the level of trust, if you look at the social media, sad to say, it doesn't reflect that. So we need to tell the truth again. And how do you bring this to bear in the context of KPI when we do, KIP, sorry, when we do technology as a part of education. Okay? And what I learned from Bhutan, if you want to tell the truth, you must have what we call a slowing down. Because the Bhutanese say, if you hurry, you are going to shorten the broadband of morality. And they gave me a very simple example. I need to go to my office and I'm in a hurry. And I've been accident on the road. I will not stop because I'm running after my meeting which I'm late. Yeah? But if you take a life at its pace, my first duty is to save the person in the accident. Forget about the meeting can come in later. Because it is a life to be saved. And therefore, the broadband of morality is looked after in that particular sense. So this whole idea of running, rushing, speed as far as technology is concerned is something that we need to reconsider. There's a book now called The Slow Professor. The slow professor says you need to sit down and reflect. Yeah, and I think there's also the last literature that I read, somebody from University of College London said you just need to publish one paper a year, but make sure that paper is thorough. Don't have to publish 10 papers a year that actually duplicate some of these other that you have done just because you want to produce the KPI, the numbers, and the key IP is not there. And these are things that we need to start looking at. And after doing that, if it doesn't work, then only accept that it is. You don't have to, commit suicide or do whatever that's unnecessary for this. That is maybe one way of looking at it. Yeah? And the other way is, again, to be very sensitive over what others think about this. It's a question of values again. In many of the social medias, I think the sensitivities are not there. In fact, they are meant to incite. Yeah, this whole idea of hatred and antagonism is what is more demonstrated in this particular thing. So, thanks. Which then must be attentive to details. This is when I look at the data, I think the Japanese have got it, because the Japanese are so attentive to details. For us, as long as the big picture is up, the details doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the clock has stopped. I don't know how many days now. It's 2 o'clock there. I'm sorry, my own example. But we are not attentive to details. Yeah? Here's an international conference and the clock is not working. Something's not working. So we need to be attentive to detail. Then we begin to understand where the sensitivities are. Whether we need to say certain things, when we need to write certain things. I think these are issues that we need to then grapple with when we talk about instant technology, instant gratification, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, take responsibility for what you do. Don't hide under synonymous names and stuff like that, because you need to take the responsibility. And once you get that KIP in place, then perhaps you're moving closer to this middle path and bringing wisdom to it. And therefore, we talk about thinking of peace as a priority before you act, right? And trying to work all the things that needs to be worked, so that this peace, harmony, and cordiality that you talk about, the ikigai, the lagom, the sejahtera, are in place, regardless of what the technology demands you to do. That is your first priority, and for you to move on. Okay? Very quickly, you need to get a complete human being then. Not just the human capital. We use the word human capital here as though that's the final ultimate that we want to produce. The human capital is not the total human being. There's still gaps that need to be filled, and this is where I think the issues need to be fixed. Let me just quickly run. I know I'm running out of time. Here in Malaysia, we talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution a lot, and I'm not too sure in your countries. But when we talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution, we talk about just the technology, the digital technology. Everything has to be automated. We worry about the job loss and so on and so forth. But we fail to connect, again, into all the other revolutions before it. The 1st Industrial Revolution, the 2nd, the 3rd, before we cannot understand the 4th Industrial Revolution if we don't understand what the 1st and the 3rd, 2nd and the 3rd is all about. It's almost like watching a movie at episode number 4. You are not able to understand episode number 4 until you also understand the previous episode. How do you connect this? And you suddenly find that revolution number 4 will not be possible if there's no revolution number 3. Number 3 is not possible, there's no number 2. There's no electricity, there's no computer. There's no computer, there's no digital whatever. Right? And these are the connectivity that we need to be alert, and that's where knowledge is also becomes important. All the rest, as you can see, is something which is mechanical. Horsepower, electric power, computer power, fusion power. Where is the human being? Where are we in all this revolution, so to speak? What are we revolutionizing, for that matter? Right? And these are now happening, as we can see, is impacting us. The climate change that we see now is as a result of the revolution, the first revolution, which is almost 300 years ago. The pollution that we see today are generated then, and generated by the 2nd Industrial Revolution, the electricity, the mass production, and so on and so forth. Yeah? The structure of society changes. Slavery comes in, Marxism comes in, capitalism comes in. All this has got bearing in knowledge and also literature, I hope, in this particular context. Right? So how do you then bring all this to bear? And as we move into the 3rd revolution, we are not only talking about the external anymore, we are talking about the internal. People are getting addicted to it. When Malaysians got 70% obsessed over its devices, I think we're almost addicted to it. Right? And I asked the Japanese, what about your technology? He said, this technology, as far as they're concerned, is an appendix to them. If I need it, I used it. If I don't need it, it's okay. It's almost like a toilet, they say. I need to go to the toilet when I need to go to the toilet. After that, I leave the toilet. But Malaysian lives in the toilet. Yeah? Whether we need it or not, 70% we roam around the toilet for whatever sake. You know, because we think the toilet is part of our life. For the other people, it's not. So where does education comes in this particular context? So we get addicted to it, and now this whole question of loneliness. All the lights you've got, all the connectivity we have, suicide rates are coming up, depressions are coming up, anxiety is coming up. So what does the technology means to us as far as human beings? And I think this is a context, as at least I hope this conference will do, or at least my kuliah will think about this. Yeah? And times are getting shorter and shorter. What used to be 100 years now, probably, if you can see, only half a day, things will change, not hundreds of years anymore. So as you go into the year 2020, this is what it is said. Yeah? Over 3 million industrial robots will be in operation by the year 2020 is now. These 3 million robots, what we understand by. Yeah? And the question of ethics becomes important because now the robots are beginning to invade us. You know, there's this word called transhumanists. I don't know whether you've heard this, transhumanists or posthumanists. These are blend between technology and human being. They are neither human being, they are no technology, they're somewhere in between. And the transhumanist discourse, if you read them in the internet, is frightening. They say we are more powerful than God. Yeah, when you have that kind of idea in mind, then the technology becomes at your mercy. You can do whatever you want. So we are moving into what we call the Anthropocene age, which means the age where we destroy our own environment, destroy our own civilization, destroy our own values. And is this where the direction that we need to go, given the technology is so sophisticated? So we talk about now not only the mechanical part, we talk about the human part. So we're talking about moving from fusion power to people power. What do we do now to manage this? And fortunately or unfortunately, we've got this whole idea of Society 5.0 again, leading the Japanese led this. Yeah? 2019, when World Economic Forum talks about the fourth industrial revolution, and 2019, when they meet again 3 years later, they talk about the fourth social revolution. Why? Because the organizer says, you know, by then we will be fighting against a robot and we will lose. If we just work on the technical part of it. So the social dimension needs to come in, and this is where the Japanese have been working on it in the context of Society 5.0. So there is things that we need to do to make the difference as far as digital trend is concerned, not just accepting it. Big data is also big lies. You know, given the fake news, everybody talk about big data, I say, how honest is this big data? Yeah, and this is something, again, the KIP that we talked about earlier, right? So for the fourth industrial revolution, everybody has got it on their maps, yeah, and they call it by different names, but people do not have what we call the sustainable development goal, which is the other dimension that we need to balance this technology that's coming in, right? Europe is talking about well-being 2030, trying to offset technology alone. In Asia, we do not have, and we are still talking about that, so we're trying to introduce this whole idea of sejahtera as part and parcel of the value that balance education at the end of the day. And just a few months ago, the government announced another initiative called the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, which is meant to bring the gaps closer and to try to bring technology into bear in a very humanized way. So I think I will stop there. And these are some of the conclusions. I think very quickly we want to talk about a new knowledge measurement, not just the tangibles but the intangibles at the same time. Right? This is the balance that we talked about. We want to talk about not just the high-tech knowledge, but also the high-touch. How do you balance it again? Yeah? We just want to talk about STEM. We also want to talk about STREAM. In fact, the other words that have been used is HACD, which is humanity, arts, creativity, and design. Right? stream means science, technology, religion, arts, ethics, arts, and management. How do you balance these two, right? We need to find how do we actually reinforce one another and find out whether we are coming to a balance at the end of the day. Okay? How do you link social issues with technological issues? And finally, how do you create values to make sure that human being stays where they are as part of and parcel of our raison d'etre, as it were, whereas managing technology in the way we need to manage. Okay? So on that note, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Professor. May I request that you may answer? Right, ladies and gentlemen, we got about 10 minutes or 5 minutes for Q&A. Anybody with a question for the good professor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we just heard remarkable ideas about technology, humanity, morality, ethics, and the future. And the word that keeps on popping up is sustainability, right? And it's a big, complicated situation that requires coming together of great minds from the arts, the sciences, and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made a good time. The good professor, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Datuk Zulkifli Abdul Razak, once again is Director of International Islamic in Malaysia. And we are very appreciative of his taking the time to be with us today. As a small token of appreciation, we would like to invite Deputy Rector, Professor Nur Farida, to present our good rector a small token of appreciation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri and Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes
Thank you very much.
the presentation by the rector. The time is now, according to my watch, 11:59. We are now on good time and we are about to enter parallel session 1. Will be located on this floor on level 5. So I think on that note, we all can adjourn according to wherever we want to be, right? Once again, if you are looking for direction, there are many people in the secretariat or the organizing committee who are more than happy to help you out. So once again, don't be shy. If you are not sure what things are, ask around. So on that note, thank you very much. I will see you later at various sessions. Please enjoy the rest of the day and have a wonderful conference, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.